threat will shift farther to the east. But we're going to be watching here for the next hour very closely any indications of these storms here, the one near Wagner, Muskogee, and farther south, Chakotah and Eufaula. There are storms that are forming out ahead of that main line. And this area of thunderstorms right now is not severe warned. The one to the west of it is, due to 60 to 70 mile per hour straight line winds that's affecting you from the Kansas-Oklahoma border all the way down to Oklahoma City. I mean, that is an impressive bowing line of thunderstorms that still has the capability of producing tornadoes along it. And we know we had a situation just like this one 9 days ago right here in Green Country, when we had Holdenville that was impacted with a tornado along a line of thunderstorms that looked like this one. So we know what can happen. And unfortunately, we know what already has happened this evening. We have a tornado emergency going on for cleanup in Barnesville right now, which about an hour ago experienced most likely EF3 tornado damage. The winds were most likely more than 150 miles an hour with that storm. And we just hope everybody made it with no injuries or fatalities. We know there's significant damage in Barnesville. We know that it is to the tune of houses being flattened. And we also know that we have a storm chaser, at least one, on the way to Barnesville right now. Hopefully our storm chasers who are on the way to Barnesville right now are being safe, because depending on where they're coming from, we are driving through some stuff. So we hope that they are taking the necessary precautions to keep themselves safe as they try to give us information. Colton, you have an update?
Yeah, Kevin. So we have James McMullen. He's en route. He's about 15 miles out of Barnesville. So in 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to have a shot. But again, we're seeing really, really sobering photos coming out of Barnesville right now. So we'll have James McMullen, Bert Mumolo is headed to Barnesville, and Brenna Rose is headed to Bartlesville to give us the latest. We're hearing of damage at the Hampton Inn. That's at 75 and Tuxedo Boulevard in Bartlesville. That's, again, confirmed damage from the tornado now in Bartlesville. Kevin, I believe that was a long track, violent tornado from Osage into Washington County. It has now dissipated, thankfully. Heavy rain ongoing, and again, strong winds moving into the metro. But again, these storms out ahead of the main line, those are becoming more and more concerning as they take on a supercellular shape. So these are going to have to be watched closely, particularly over here near Wagner County, and going to be up into parts of Rogers County shortly. So we're going to have to watch closely, Kevin, as these, again, continue their development. We'll bring you folks at home. Stick with us. We're going to have photos coming out of Barnesville and Bartlesville here within the next 15, 20 minutes.
And do me a favor, Colt, if you could, just zoom in on the area that got impacted by that tornado emergency so people know where we're talking about here. Here's Barnesville right here. The thing, and here are some tornado reports that are showing up, obviously, because this thing was confirmed. It did damage, 150 mile an hour winds, and it moved its way right through Barnesville and then made its way eventually to Bartlesville. So it was on the ground, most likely for about 40 miles or more. A long track tornado that did significant damage, and it was happening at night. And that's the scariest time for tornadoes. There's a lot of people who will say, well, tornadoes don't scare me as much at night, at day as they do during the night, for obvious reasons. They're 3 times deadlier at night than they are during the day, and those are the numbers. So we had a tornado this evening that tracked from Barnesville right to Bartlesville, and in between, there's most likely significant damage. We know we have confirmed reports now that in the town of Bartlesville, of the Hampton Inn, off of Highway 75, as Colton just mentioned, we've got damage to the Hampton Inn in the Bartlesville area. And also, we know that Barnesville, that town itself, has homes that have been flattened, most likely with winds that were over 150 miles an hour, maybe even more than that. That was an estimate of the winds when that storm went through Barnesville, and it was at least EF3 strength, possibly stronger. When they survey the damage, that's when they can get a better determination of what the winds were. That's how the EF system works. You do it after the fact, and you look at the damage and you say, oh, that was an EF3 or 4. But what we have going on here, folks, is not good. Not only do we have a line of thunderstorms that's producing severe wind of 60 to 70 miles an hour, severe straight line winds. We also have a blossoming storm out here between Tahlequah and Wagner. And what we were fearing would happen is happening. This is a storm that is removed from the main line. It has all the juice it wants to produce a supercell thunderstorm, to get rotating, and to get busy, possibly producing severe weather. Now, a severe thunderstorm warning has already been issued for this storm. This is exactly what happened with the Barnsdall storm. We saw a little area of convection, thunderstorm activity, and we said, oh no, it's happening out ahead of that main line. And then about a minute later, a severe thunderstorm warning was issued, just like this storm over Yonkers, Wagner, big city here in Wagner County. This storm is moving to the northeast. Looks like it's a pretty fast mover. It's a severe thunderstorm warning right now, but we're in a tornado watch. And a storm that looks just like this one produced a tornado that did severe damage in Barnsdall over an hour ago. Yeah.
This storm, by the way, I want you to look at this. This storm is moving northeast at 65 miles per hour. Okay, that will outrun you in a vehicle, because you have to follow the roads and the storm does not, okay? So this is going to be the time of arrival at the current shape of the cell for many, many locations across eastern Oklahoma here. And again, the storm currently not showing a whole lot of indication in terms of rotation.
Good.
That's good news right now. But again, this is going to be a wind and hail producer, and it's going to try to develop a mesocyclone as it tries to move towards some of these communities. So we're going to watch this closely. There are some times of arrival as that storm pushes off to the northeast, Kevin. But that storm has really caught my attention, and it's going to have to be watched closely because it's trying to become a supercell.
You got it. Oh, I think we have a report from Joy, too.
If we can go to Weather 3 here, I've got this storm pulled up. I was watching it earlier in the previous scans. It's hard to see now, but I was noticing maybe a little bit of a hail core trying to develop. When looking through our hail detection, it's gone away, but it's been trying to develop some sort of hail shaft. So it's something we'll be keeping an eye on. Obviously, this has been severe thunderstorm warned, and that is for Cherokee, Craig, Delaware, Mays, and Wagner counties. Now, the storm is moving very quickly, as both Colton and Kevin mentioned, to the northeast at 65 miles per hour, and it's currently warned for $half size hail as well as 60 mile per hour wind gusts, and it's really growing in size. With each radar scan, it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. Obviously, we haven't seen anything in the way of velocity just yet, nothing that points out or really stands out to me, but this likely could pack a good punch with heavier rainfall as it's heading into Cedar Crest and Peggs, as well as Snake Creek and Locust Grove. Of course, it could produce some small hail and gusty winds at the moment right now. And again, this is out ahead of that main line of storms, so this is really untapped air so far for us as we've been watching through this afternoon and evening, and we'll continue to do so for the overnight. Of course, with this being untapped air, that means it still has that potential for producing tornadoes, and of course, that's why we saw the tornado watch be extended out into the 5 o'clock hour, now encompassing all of Green Country. So, of course, it's something we'll continue to keep an eye on, Kevin, as we work through the rest of the night here.
You got it, Joy. Thanks for that update. And you make a good point that there's hail with this storm. We don't want to forget about the hail, $half size. Most likely, if this storm is moving at 65 miles an hour, it probably won't be able to organize itself well enough to produce really large hail. So that's a good thing. But it's still producing severe hail, so it's still dangerous, especially if it's moving at 65 miles an hour. It's almost hard to imagine a storm moving that fast, but sure enough, you see how long that track is. This is a fast mover. It's between Wagner and Tahlequah right now. It's producing torrential rain, $half sized hail, and 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. This storm is moving to the northeast toward Locust Grove. It's going to make its way toward Jay eventually. Some pretty big towns here, folks, going to be impacted by this storm. While if we widen out the view a little bit, we know that we've got a line of thunderstorms approaching this area. If you live in Bartlesville, if you live in Barnsdall, Dewey, you've been impacted with some severe wind tonight, twice. First you had a tornado go through, and then you had this come through. I mean, that's why we're telling you now, when a tornado comes through, you can't always go out and survey the damage because there could be more coming. And that's exactly what happened tonight when Barnsdall suffered severe damage in southeastern Osage County with thousands now without power. When a tornado moved through that was a tornado emergency more than an hour ago in Barnsdall, that storm, about 15 minutes later, was another storm went over it, where that one went, is for lack of better way to say it. This line of storms right here crossed right through Osage County right after the tornado did, minutes after. So that's dangerous because people are trying to clean up out there. There could be fatalities, there could be injuries, there could be anything. When we have homes flattened in Barnesville, which we know we do, we just hope that everybody's okay. We really hope everybody's okay. But we have a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings that are firing right now. The main threat here is going to be 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. While we watch for rotation in these storms that are developing out here to the east of the metro, from places like Wagner to Tahlequah, this cluster of thunderstorms also go down to Muskogee. As these storms move to the north and east, we're going to have to watch them closely for signs of rotation, and we know that the Weather Service is doing the same thing because they know that what we know, that about 2 hours ago, we were watching a storm that looked just like this one as it approached Barnesville. And we said, oh no, what if that starts to rotate? It started to rotate. And then it really started to rotate. And then a tornado emergency was issued for Barnesville, and then homes were flattened, most likely with 150 mile an hour winds or greater. So we just saw the signal kind of get shut down there for a second. We know we've got some bad weather coming at us right here on Lookout Mountain. And here it is. That front is moving through. We've got the strong winds happening in the Tulsa metro right now. We've got heavy rain. Don't venture out. We're going to have most likely some debris in the streets, trees down, things of that nature, some power outages. Not safe to drive here as these strong winds make their way through the region. So it looks like we still have a severe thunderstorm warning in place for Oologah to Talala and off to the east. And we also have severe thunderstorm warnings back off to the west as well. So perhaps these winds here that are moving through from Sperry to Tulsa to Broken Arrow, if they issue another severe thunderstorm warning, we'll have to wait and see. But is there one in effect right now for those areas? I can't even tell.
Say which area now?
Yeah, there is. Okay, my bad. I couldn't see. This is the western edge, and this is the eastern edge. So yeah, this line of wind right here that's coming through is severe. 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, and we're tracking the counties that are in play here. Wagner is one of them with this line of thunderstorms here, folks. So once we get through this in Tulsa within the next hour, maybe a little bit longer, that's when we know that we will be on the better side of this activity. Because you want to be on the western side. You don't want to be on the east side. Because if you're on the east side of this, the winds are coming your way from this line of thunderstorms that also could produce a tornado through the next several hours. Remember, a tornado watch is in place until 5 a.m. Okay, that's an eerie thing to think of, that we still have hours to go where we have the threat of a tornado. Now, the good news is we don't have any tornado warnings right now. Right now, it is severe thunderstorm warned storms that are producing 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, up to $half sized hail, and torrential rain. In addition, we've got these two storms out here, one south of Wagner and one north. This is the one that's severe warned right here, and it's moving very fast to the north at 65 miles an hour. Again, we've been watching for potential indications of rotation because of the fact we're in a tornado watch and because of the fact that we know that there was a tornado emergency earlier this evening in the town of Barnesville, and then Bartlesville also suffered damage to the Hampton Inn up there. So right now, looking at the velocity scans for
Kevin,
that area.
I would say there's starting to be a mesocyclone developing there just on top of Wagner. The rotation is currently weak, but this is the first indications that we've seen a rotation out of this storm. And not to ring the alarm and not saying this is what's happening, this is eerily similar to what happened in Osage County about an hour and a half ago. The only thing that may save this, if you go back to reflectivity, is the fact that there's an impeding thunderstorm just to the south of it. If that will grow and burst into the storm, we won't see that level of rotation increase. But for the moment, folks, if I live northeast of Wagner, if I live in places like Yonkers, up even as far northeast as Locust Grove and Peggs and the Robert Kerr Dam, I am watching this storm closely.
Yeah, look how it's hooking back like this.
That's beginning to take on a little bit of a supercell shape, and that's concerning for the conditions that we know what's going on tonight.
Can you tell me how fast that line of storms is moving behind it that's catching up to it?
Yes, that line is moving quite slowly, especially compared to this storm that's moving at 65. We're still talking about 40 miles separating these storms, and the line, it's moving, again, I say slowly, relatively slowly compared to the storm. It's moving 45, 50, whereas the storm out ahead is moving about 60. Okay, so it will catch up, but we've got a long ways to go before that happens.
Can you track the distance between the leading edge of the wind that's coming from that line and say this area of rotation that we're getting right here, just so we have an idea of
That's on links 1 if you want to take it.
literally how far away it is? Because, I mean, it's 23 miles away. Yeah, I mean, if it's moving at 50 miles an hour, yeah, what we're hoping for here is that this line of storms here with this wind will move into this area of a developing supercell and break it up and not let it develop, because we don't want this to continue to develop the characteristics that it's doing right now. And as we've been saying over and over now, really for the last 20, 30 minutes about this storm, oh no, because we saw this exact thing happen a little bit less than 2 hours ago, southwest of Barnesdale. And we said, if this thing starts to rotate, look out. It's a very juicy environment. We're in a tornado watch. And at that time, we also saw a line of thunderstorms impinging on it from the west. And we said, come on, thunderstorms, go faster. Get this line in here to disrupt this organization. I think these storms are even farther away than the ones were before.
They are, yeah.
So I don't think we can hope for that, Colton. I think we're in trouble here. I think we've got trouble with the shape of this radar data right here starting to show rotation, and you just showed the velocity data too, which is also showing potential a mesocyclone developing as we watch this area right in here, just north of Wagner.
I mean, it's weak.
Yeah.
It's not strong by any means, but it's definitely there. And again, I'm seeing people in and around the Weather Service starting to agree that this is eerily similar to how the Barnsdall situation started. The supercell is not incredibly organized. I mean, we're not talking about, incredible hail.
Right.
And we'll even take a 3D look at it here, and we can see how.
And I'm even telling you right now, I mean, the fact that it's moving so fast, I believe that the Barnsdall storm was moving at about 35 to 40 miles an hour. This one is moving, a lot faster.
And that's still growing. So
Yeah.
that is indication that the storm is intensifying.
Yeah, that's not good. And it's moving, it's a fast mover, and it's intensifying, and it's in an environment that is very rich with low-level moisture, low-level wind, and strong wind shear with increasing winds with height and turning of the winds with height. And that's what makes these storms rotate. And they turn into supercells, and that's when you get the tornadoes. And that's why we've got a tornado watch in place that's a PDS, or particularly dangerous situation tornado watch, because all the ingredients are in place for these storms to have strong updrafts, get separated from the downdrafts. These thunderstorms can go up to 30,000 feet and possibly even higher. It looks like right now between 30 and 40,000 feet up. So this thing is blossoming, and it is an environment that is very rich and very ripe for strengthening. So if you do live in that portion of Wagner County and areas to the north and east of that, Yonkers, as Colton was just mentioning, this is concerning. We have to watch this very closely, as this area of thunderstorms right here is taking on a bit of a supercellular shape, which means a rotating thunderstorm. And if a tornado were to form, it would be on the southwest corner down there south of Shoto. Now, right now, there isn't a tornado warning for this storm. There's a severe thunderstorm warning for wind and hail.
Right, and I do want to
But
touch on this real quick.
I think Joy has an update for us.
Yes, I do want to touch on, for those folks within the metro, that main line of storms is getting ready to move in. If it hasn't already, you may be hearing the winds picking up and wondering, what does that look like? First, I want to start off, if we can get to weather 3 here, I want to start off with our current wind gusts. I saw a little bit ago, about 5 minutes ago, Nowata had a wind gust of about 50 miles per hour. That has come down to about 43 miles per hour, but we're starting to see in a couple of counties those winds picking up. Now, that's for that main line of storms that we've been watching that is severe thunderstorm warned for about 70 mile per hour wind gusts. Now, it extends just outside of Nowata. Now, it's to the east, all the way up to the Kansas state line, west of Welch through Chelsea. Chelsea will be on that line next near Foyle. Claremore, you're likely already starting to feel those winds pick up out ahead of it. Verdigris, Catoosa, it still has not reached downtown yet, but likely that those winds are picking up in front of that. We can see that with this kind of darker green shade from Kellyville all the way over to Sapulpa. I'm going to draw this out here. This is kind of a line of gusty winds out ahead of that main line here, following along the 44 corridor. So again, this is just severe thunderstorm warned. We haven't had any indications of rotation. I've been scouring up and down this line of storms just to try and pinpoint any spots of rotation. We can get these quick spin ups with lines of storms like this. We've seen this happen about a couple of weeks ago. That Friday morning, that was the same instance here. And so far, I have not been able to see any signs of rotation, but winds will be picking up in your area, specifically in Tulsa County. Sapulpa, Jinx, Broken Arrow, Catoosa, Verdigris, Claremore, Chelsea, into Veneta and Miami. It's going to take a little bit of time to get to you. This line of storms will pack a good punch of winds, again, up to 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. We'll likely see some heavy rain for that, and as well as small hail, though hail not really a huge threat with this line of storms, as we're mainly watching for that damaging wind gust threat, as well as the chance for quick spin-up tornadoes. It looks like this line of storms, we've got another severe thunderstorm warning for that. That includes Creek, Mays, Okmulgee, Osage, Pawnee, Rogers, Tulsa, and Wagner counties. It is for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and half-dollar-size hail, so still the same logic as this storm is moving to the east at about 25 miles per hour. So keep that in mind. We're tracking a line of storms. We've got another storm out to the east. That's just south of Jay, near Shodo and the dam, as well as Locust Grove and Wagner and Holbert. We're still watching this kind of smaller storm, even though it's starting to grow in size as well, just south of that. So if you live in the metro, you're noticing the winds picking up. We are just looking at a wind threat for you right now. Of course, if that changes, we'll be sure to let you know, Kevin.
You got it, Joy. That's great information there. And there's two things we're watching. One is that main line of bowing thunderstorms here, that along which could produce some spin-up tornadoes moving forward. We're going to be watching for the threat of that. Those winds are going to be 60 miles an hour on the leading edge of this line, which a little while ago we saw a little flicker here at News Channel 8, and that's probably when the winds were hitting us. And now we are also, in addition to that line of storms off to the west, we're also watching clusters of thunderstorms that are forming about 20 miles out ahead of it. And these are concerning because they're definitely growing in intensity. We saw them growing in height. The updrafts are strengthening. Now, this storm here at last check was moving to the northeast at 65 miles an hour. I mean, the speed of the storm itself is severe wind. We're also watching, perhaps there has been some indications of rotation on the radar there, say, southwest of Locust Grove near Cedar Crest. So as that starts to rotate, we'll start to say, okay, let's hope it doesn't really start to rotate, and then they have to issue another kind of warning. Colton, you have an update for us?
Yeah, I just want to talk about the power outage situation briefly. We've just got recent numbers in from PSO, Kevin, and currently seeing 7,100 customers without power across parts of Green Country. 600 of those are out of Barnsdall. Now, Barnsdall may only have 600 customers, Kevin. There's not a whole lot of, the population out there is not that high. So that would more than likely be a majority of the town without power, 5,200 without power in Bartlesville. Again, these are customers, these are households. So again, about 2.5 people per household. We're talking about several thousand Oklahomans without power right now, thanks to tornado damage and suspected tornado and wind damage as well. So again, Bartlesville, Barnsdall, a town, only about 1,000 population, so 600 customers without power. That would be pretty close to just about the entire town, Kevin.
You got it, Colton. And I know that we had some crews heading out to Barnsdall. They may have been impacted on their travels by some pretty severe weather. So they may not have arrived there yet. Am I right about that?
I'm sorry. Say that one more time, Kevin.
Oh, I know we've got some of our storm chasers on the way to Barnsdall.
Yes.
To survey the damage for us. And I know that they may have been impacted by severe weather on their way. So did that delay them a little bit?
And McMullen, Kevin, to be truthful with you, may have a hard time getting into town because we're hearing of a major search and rescue operation ongoing.
Yeah.
So the town may be locked down. We've got McMullen. He's headed that way. Burt Mumolo is headed that way. We've got a crew headed up to Bartlesville. So, we're going to have people in place. We're just going to have to try to get in there if we can.
Yeah, that makes sense, Colton. And the most important thing right now is not storm chasers surveying the damage or us surveying the damage. It's the first responders in there trying to get people out who are in harm's way. So that's exactly right. They've probably just shut the roads into and out of that town down, and they're doing what they do to save lives. And we appreciate all the first responders' efforts when it comes to a situation like this that they find themselves in on this Monday night in Barnesdale, which had an EF3 or stronger tornado move through a couple of hours ago with a tornado emergency, and we had search and rescue out there now. We know that a direct quote is that there are homes that have been flattened tonight in Barnesdale. So our hearts just go out to those people. We hope everybody is okay. We know there's severe damage to property, and most likely right now, as we just mentioned, in Barnesdale, no one's going in or out except first responders and people trying to save lives. So that's important to note as well for that tornado emergency that occurred within the last 2 hours affecting Barnesdale, and eventually it affected Bartlesville. And we know there was damage in both of those cities of Osage and Washington counties. Now the big picture. We've got severe wind all across the metro, all across Green Country. We've got severe thunderstorm warnings due to winds of 60 up to 70 miles an hour, stretching from southeastern Kansas right through the heart of the metro. Here's Tulsa right here. We've got the casino. We've got Sand Springs. The heavy rain is right on our doorstep. Most of us have already felt the initial push of that gust front as it moved through, but there are some pretty strong winds that are still going to be moving through the region here, folks. The severe thunderstorm warning remains in place, and as we sample some of those wind speeds behind the initial line, yeah, they're 50 to 60 miles an hour. That's going to give you some power outages. It's going to give you wind damage, very dangerous travel conditions. Not to mention, we've got torrential rain going on with these storms as well, which are moving to the southeast at about 40 miles an hour. So we've got severe wind in the metro right now here, folks.
Hey, Kevin, we've got James McMullen, the control room. Let's see if we can get that shot, at least if it's up in a box.
Okay.
Now making his way into Barnesdale, and we'll have him on the line shortly, so that way we can talk with him. But right now, some of the indications we've seen, there's some debris, looks like trees, and he's going to continue to survey. So, folks, we're going to have, and there, I believe we have him. If we have McMullen, James, you're just now coming into town. I know you haven't had a minute to look around or so, but let us know what you're seeing there.
Maybe take him full screen.
Yeah, if we can. James, go ahead.
Yeah, Colton, right now I am just coming into the south side of Barnesdale, coming from the lake. I've ran into numerous debris, down trees, down power lines. Gonna work my way down Main Street here just to see how much of the main towns got hit. There is a lot of flashing lights and everything.
Okay, control room, let's keep his shot up off to the side if we can, and we'll check back in with him shortly. James, be careful. Down power lines, that can be a problem. Just be careful. Let us know. Jump in if you need to let us know something, and we'll probably come back to James shortly, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm sure we will, Colton, because, as we just mentioned a minute ago, the most important thing is what the search and rescue crews are doing to save lives there in Barnesdale. We've got some people, James being one of them, trying to get a little bit closer to give us an idea of what has happened there. But other than that, separate from that, we're also looking at the Bartlesville camera. The reason we have those two cameras up is because those are two communities that have been impacted with tornadic damage tonight. Barnesdale, the winds were at least 150 miles an hour, possibly greater. And then Bartlesville, apparently the storm had weakened a little bit before it hit Bartlesville. So Barnesdale took a bigger hit, I believe, with a tornado tonight than you did in Bartlesville. But in both of those areas, you had to live through a tornado emergency because we knew that once we heard of homes being flattened in Barnesdale, then all bets are off. Everybody gets to their shelter, and you don't come out until all the storms are past. And all the storms aren't past. We still have a line of severe wind-producing storms going right through the metro. Here's Tulsa right here, back off to the south and west. That line of storms has been producing 60 to 70 mile an hour gusts. The lights flickered here a little bit on Lookout Mountain overlooking Tulsa, so we know the winds are pretty good. Now, we don't have any current tornado warnings, I do not believe. All we have is, I don't want to say all we have, but severe thunderstorm warnings obviously are dangerous. But I'd rather have that than a tornado warning, and I think you would too. Because there's just something ominous about a tornado warning, because tornado warnings, we know how strong those things can get. We know how much wind they can pack, and they can be 150 miles an hour. They can be greater. When you have a straight line wind event like this one, you generally know it's going to be 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. Yes, I'm going to have some debris. I may lose power, but most likely you and your family are going to be okay if you stay inside as this line of storms passes. That's different than when there's a tornado warning. Right now, we don't have any tornado warnings. We do have tornado damage that occurred in Barnesdall and Bartlesville, and we've got crews working to survey that. We're also watching an area about 20 miles southeast of this line of storms that are producing separate clusters of thunderstorms that are in an environment that is very ripe for strengthening. Now, we know that there have been some updrafts that have pushed these clouds tens of thousands of feet up in the sky, and that means you get strong updrafts, you can get hail. If you start to get rotation, then you got problems. And we have had some indications of rotation with this storm near Shoto, just to the south and east of that town. There have been some indications of rotation on the radar. And as we take a look now, we're looking at the velocity data. Here's Shoto right here. And there are some indications of some rotation there, but it's not a very strong signal. And this is good news because...
Yeah, Kevin, this is best case scenario. Yeah. Given kind of the environment that the storm developed in, it has still kept a really, really messy look. And that's a great thing to see, because this storm at one point was looking really, really ominous, especially compared to what happened out near Barnesdall. So currently, the look, at least for that northern storm, is pretty ragged. The southern storm may be continuing to try to get its act together. So I'm keeping my eye on these, checking it every 10, 15 seconds as we kind of focus on the main line here. But we're still watching those. They're severe, not rotating at the moment. But, I mean, Kevin, the environment's so ripe. I mean, we could be talking about going from 0 to 60 in a matter of just a minute or so.
And speaking of 0 to 60, this storm here at the last check was moving northeast at 65 miles an hour. A storm that's moving that fast may not have as much time to really develop into a really strong supercell as maybe one that's moving half that speed. So we can hope for that. We can't book it, put it that way. You can't book anything when you're in a tornado watch, which we are right now, and a PDS1 for that matter, particularly dangerous situation. So severe thunderstorm warned storms in this cluster right here for 60 to 70 mile an hour winds and $half sized hail. We also have this line of severe wind producing storms, which has a history of at least 60 mile an hour winds as well. Now we know that these storms here, we were looking at those camera shots in Bartlesville and some of the footage we had from just a few minutes ago in Barnesdall. We're still seeing some of the storms in the area there. So people are trying, we're seeing flashes of lightning. So people are still trying to maybe survey the damage, maybe save lives in Barnesdall, because we know they took a direct hit with at least an EF3 tornado. And there's still storms in the area. Now, the worst is most likely over for both of those communities, for Barnesdall and Bartlesville, as far as the weather for the rest of the night. But we may have some good news from Joy here.
Yes, so there has been an update to some of the tornado watches, and it looks like the tornado watch has been canceled for Nowata, Osage, Pawnee, and Washington County. So some of those hardest hit areas today, the tornado watch will expire at 11 o'clock. You can see kind of the darker shaded yellows there.
Is that links 2 or 3, Joy?
That is links 3, if we can bring that up, please. Why don't you pull up the tornado watch and turn on the cities, so like hit play so we can see the cities too. Yes, so for us here, that would be kind of the darker shaded yellow areas. Now, 55 minutes here, 5 minutes is when we'll see kind of this tornado watch expired. So the National Weather Service is already calling it expired for Osage, Pawnee, Nowata, and Washington County. So those who have experienced that tornado damage this morning, or this evening, that is, will be able to be in the all clear. So this is the all clear for you guys going forward, that, you know, we're not expecting any severe weather in your area. And that's definitely some good news if you want to get out and about. I do want to show you the analysis real quick, just to show that, hey, there might be some light rain in the area. You may get a rogue lightning strike near Barnstall, heading into Bartlesville, but that severe threat is over for you guys. So just wanted to bring some good news since we're still tracking storms in our area, Kevin.
Yeah, that is great news. And, we need some good news now because we had so much bad news earlier. We had a long track tornado that happened a couple of hours ago from near Barnsdall to Bartlesville. We believe it was on the ground for at least 40 miles, perhaps longer. And it was doing EF3 tornado damage in its path. The town of Barnsdall is a town of about 1,000 people. Much of the town is without power, and much of the town has received significant damage. Search and rescue is in the town of Barnsdall right now. We also have one of our storm chasers, James, I believe, who's out there. He's also getting a kind of a view from the outside of what's been happening. And just on his way into town, he was saying, yeah, there were trees down. There were emergency vehicles, so he may not be able to get in too far, and that's fine, because we got to let the people do their jobs. We don't want to get in the way. We want them to do what they have to do, what they've been trained to do. When you are surveying a town that has been hit with a severe wind event, like a strong tornado, there's so many hazards that can be there. So we still have James on the phone. Okay, can we pull up his shot?
Is not the most friendly area to cell service, and that's
Okay.
what we're operating off of, as well as, Kevin, I mean, we very well could have damaged infrastructure out there. So his shot is a little in and out here, and I'm not sure if we still have him on the line. When we get a stable shot, okay, all right, he's on the line. So we can go to James McMullen even though we don't have a shot.
Yeah, we can talk to James, even if we can't see if his shot comes in, we can show it full screen, that's fine.
Sure.
But James, can you tell us what you've been seeing since we saw you about 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, I've surveyed some of the towns so far. I am right now at 5th and Walnut if my stream does come up. Fire and Rescue is doing a house-to-house sweep right now, checking, make sure everybody's okay. I'm about to get out and talk to some of these local officials here to see if there's any additional information we can gather.
Yeah, and maybe there's some way you can help. Sometimes they'll be like, yeah, I need you to do this, or they might just say, get out of my way, and you do whatever they say, obviously. But hey, James, we appreciate you being there and letting us know. We know we have trees down. We know we have homes flattened. Search and rescue is there in Barnsdall, in southern Osage County. They experienced a tornado emergency tonight. That's something that everyone fears when they live in this part of the country, especially this time of year, early May. We know there have been so many historical tornadoes that are in the record books, and not for the reasons we want them to be. And we hope that one didn't just happen tonight, but it may very well have in the town of Barnsdall. And this is video that James shot just a few minutes ago as he was coming into Barnsdall. You see some of the vegetation debris in the streets there. There were still thunderstorms kind of in the area when he was pulling in. So the cleanup efforts are being hampered by still some additional rain and even a little bit of wind. But the worst is over as far as the weather goes for Barnsdall and for Bartlesville. Because as we just showed you a minute ago, areas west of the Tulsa Metro and northwest, really behind this line, the threat for tornadoes has been eliminated. And so has the tornado watch, which expires, I believe, now. And so areas, again, behind this line, your threat for severe wind is going down after the line passes you by. But if you are still along and out ahead of it, of course, we still have the severe thunderstorm warnings that are in place for 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts. We're still watching some clusters of thunderstorms that have developed out ahead of the main line in an area that is extremely unstable. Very strong low-level moisture surge is happening right now ahead of this main line. And a low-level moisture surge increases the instability of the air, and it also gives you a better chance for tornadoes to form in an environment like this with strong wind shear, because we also have strong winds aloft. Halfway up in the atmosphere, there's very strong winds as well. So that's wind shear. The wind increases with height and it turns. So that causes rotation in these thunderstorms. And when you get a rotating thunderstorm, those are the ones that produce tornadoes much more often than other thunderstorms that aren't rotating. So that's what's happening here, folks. And look at this. Looks like we have a tornado warning here in Chandler, just to the south and west of our coverage area, I do believe. So,
And Kevin, I've been watching that circulation closely. That has really been a long-lived circulation since it was in Logan County,
Yeah, look at this
so
right
north
here.
of the Oklahoma City Metro. I'll show you what I've been tracking here. This has really ramped up just in the last couple of minutes now on the southeast side of Kearney. Okay, so this has been a pretty intense circulation over the last few minutes. This is, again, tornado warning now for northern Lincoln County, and this circulation is actually sort of dive bombing to the southeast. So that's going to cross Highway 18 somewhere there on the north side of Chandler and try to cross Highway 44 somewhere between, Interstate 44, the turnpike there, somewhere between Chandler and Davenport, and eventually going to try to make its way towards Stroud in far northern Lincoln County here. So I've been watching this closely, and I'm not surprised that the warning has been issued here. This is not the News Channel 8 viewing area, but if it survives to go into the either the creek or even the far northern sides of Ofuskie County here, we'll have to watch this really closely because this is an embedded storm, an embedded cell within the main line, so not likely to produce a tornado like what we saw through Barnsdall. But Kevin, the ingredients are there tonight for strong tornadoes regardless.
you got it. I mean, well put, Colton. We see the inflow notch right there. We've got rotation on the radar, and this thing is a tornado warning. You see a good couplet right there as it moves across Interstate 44 on its way to the southeast. It could impact areas south of Depew over the next half hour to 45 minutes. As we track it at its current rate of speed, it's moving apparently pretty slowly at 15 miles an hour. It would be impacting these towns perhaps in the next, say, half hour to 40, say about half hour's time. Depew at about 12:37 if it were to move more to the north, but it looks like it's, as Colton said, it's kind of diving more to the southeast a little bit. So maybe follow the middle line, Davenport, Aaron, and areas south of that would have a bit of a better chance of being impacted if there is a tornado.
And there could be more than one circulation. I mean, I see two zones there that are concerning. So we'll watch that closely. Again, currently not within our area, but I'm watching it. And again, for us, the good news right now is that these storms off to the east, they're still ragged. They're a little more impressive, a little scarier, if you will, at this time, Kevin. But, circulation beginning to be evident on the east side of Salina here. It's not, touching the ground by any means, but that's more impressive than it was just, within the last few minutes. So
yeah, that has developed, and we saw something a little bit similar to that about a half hour ago. This looks a little bit stronger than that did, which is concerning, of course. The rotation detector you just saw, this is the part of the thunderstorm on the southwest corner where you would expect that rotation to occur, and that's where it is occurring. You got the rotation detector showing strong rotation. We wouldn't be surprised if a tornado warning perhaps were issued for this, maybe with the next couple of radar scans. We'll have to wait and see. Right now, this is still a formidable storm. You're looking at just the area of rotation where the most likely location of a tornado could eventually form. But we also know
Can we go to Links 3 when we get a chance?
Yeah, we can head to Links 3 in a sec. First, we've got
This
Riley
is
Clark.
Riley sent this in to us. She took this off her front porch in Skiatook, and this is actually video of the Barnsdall tornado. You have to wait for some of the lightning flashes.
I saw it right there.
You'll be able to see it a little bit better.
Oh,
exactly.
wow.
So yeah, Riley sent this in, and we want to thank Riley for sending this in and taking this video from a safe location. But this was kind of our first indications of what potentially it looked like as the storm and tornado moved through Barnsdall at this time.
Yeah, you could see the wall cloud, you could see the tornado. I mean, that is we were looking at it on radar and said that's textbook. We had the hook echo, we had the very strong velocity signature, and this is not surprising at all to see that tornado video, which is amazing video. We appreciate it very much from Riley Clark. And that storm, folks, that did serious damage to the town of Barnsdall. We haven't heard any reports of injuries or worse. We hope that we don't. We hope everybody's okay in Barnsdall, but you're looking at video that was sent in by Riley Clark from Skiatook, and she captured this tornado. Amazingly, when the lightning flashes, you can see it. And boy, tornadoes at night, we know how dangerous they can be. And this particular one did at least EF3 damage to the town of Barnsdall about 2.5 hours ago now. And that storm held together, and it was a tornado emergency. It moved up toward Bartlesville, where it also did damage. most likely with a bit of a weaker tornadic structure. But I believe the Hampton Inn near Bartlesville suffered some damage tonight. And we know that there were homes that were flattened in Barnsdall due to the tornado we were just looking at there. Now we're getting another update here on the radar scan to see what's happening with these storms that are moving quickly to the north and east. Out ahead of this main line, there's Big Cabin and Adair. Areas to the east of that, we've got these storms that are forming out ahead of it.
And these are beginning to take more of a supercellular shape, Kevin. And if you'll recall, what happened with the Barnsdall storm is as the main line approached, as those interactions, the low-level dynamics, it's super complex.
It started to spin up.
Right. That's where the rotation really increased. So remember, a few minutes ago, the main line was somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 miles away. Well, now we're talking about 10 miles away. So this is where that rotation, if it's going to increase, it's going to be shortly, and it may very well start sort of heading that way. This circulation kind of bordering Mays and Delaware County is starting to get a little concerning.
You got it, Colton. It's almost like the clock is ticking on this storm to become a really powerful supercell that could produce a powerful tornado. And by what we mean by the clock is ticking, as Colton just said, this line of storms is only about 10 miles away. As that approaches, it can actually cause this to spin up faster and turn into a supercell thunderstorm that's producing a damaging tornado literally within minutes. Now, if this line of storms gets here and before that happens, it will make that storm lose its organization and it will not become a strong tornado-producing supercell. Want to reiterate, right now, there are not indications that it is producing a tornado. There is some rotation on the southwest flank, which is a precursor to a supercell that can produce a tornado. So we're getting like step 1. Step 2 and 3 could happen. It kind of depends on what happens, perhaps, with this line of storms that's approaching it from the northwest. There's a lot of dynamics going on here, and we know one thing. If you live along this line and ahead of it, you still have the threat for tornadoes tonight. We've got a tornado warning out near Chandler, just southwest of our viewing area. We've also got severe wind going on with this cluster of storms here. This particular one has some indications of rotation near Salina, and we're going to have to watch it close because this thing, what happened with the Barnsdall storm, again, we keep saying this, but it's so similar to what's happening with this one. It developed out ahead of the main line. It started to show rotation. We said, hey, they might issue a tornado warning for this. About a minute later, the warning was issued. Then about 10 or 15 minutes later, a tornado emergency was issued for Barnsdall.
And Kevin, we're going to load up some video here in just a moment. Before we go to that, let's talk about the metro just briefly, because notice the rain is really on a crawl here. Okay, so there's a storm spotter report, train storm spotter reports out near Manford, rain rate in excess of 2 inches per hour. Okay, so we've already had a lot of rain over the last 10 days. This could lead to additional flooding concerns. There's about to be heavy rainfall in the Tulsa metro area here, approaching downtown basically as we speak. And this could last for a couple of hours. We could be talking about several hours of heavy rainfall. That would sort of exacerbate the situation we've been in. I'm also watching, there's a couple areas along the line here that may be trying to notch up. And if they do, I'll holler as soon as I see that. At the moment, nothing terribly concerning, maybe a little bit of disorganized circulation up near the Sperry and the Turley area, up near Owasso. That would be in the North Metro. Again, at the moment, nothing terribly concerning, but we're going to watch that mainly. Just get ready for strong winds, lots of lightning, as well as rainfall. Let's call it torrential. Why don't we? Because we're talking about 2.5 inches per hour.
You got it, Colton. And, speaking of torrential rainfall, sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle when it comes to a night like this. But, hey, we have a flood watch in place. And if you live in a flood-prone area, to be extra safe. You can go to our website, KTUL.com, and we actually have a list of roads, I believe, in the metro that you want to avoid with heavy rain. But I think we have James McMullen on the phone here, who's in Barnsdall. And he drove out there after the tornado went through. There was a tornado emergency, and we had at least EF3 damage. Here's Barnsdall right here. The threat for severe weather for you for the rest of the night has been eliminated as the watch has been canceled for you, but the damage has already been done. Do we have James on the line? Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, James, can you hear me? This is Kevin.
Yes.
Okay, so when we last spoke, do you still not have a good signal? I'm guessing out there because we're not seeing your video.
Yeah, we're not able to get a stream up, but I did send video.
Okay.
Right
So yeah,
now,
we're looking at that right now. We're looking at some emergency vehicles, some video that you sent. It looks like there are quite a few of them, and you can tell us maybe some of the things you saw as an eyewitness.
right now they're still doing a house-to-house sweep. There is a smell of natural gas in the area, and yeah, they're checking all these houses out, make sure all the occupants are okay.
Have you talked to any of the officials there yet, James?
Yes, they didn't have any numbers as of right now, so
Okay.
we'll see what comes up.
Yeah, it looks like you're on the edge there. You're letting them do their job, which is what you got to do. We really appreciate you being there and giving us this update. So stay safe out there. And from Barnesville, check back in with us if you have any additional information. We appreciate it.
Will do.
Thanks, James. Okay, we know we have thousands without power across Green Country, at least 2,500 in Osage County alone, and 3,500 without power in Washington County. And those were the two counties that got hit the hardest with that tornado that was on the ground for about 40 miles or more as it impacted Barnesville and eventually Bartlesville. So those are the counties that the lights are out. It makes sense. Now, I know that we're tracking a line of storms which may oh, geez. Yeah, we're getting some of these notches. Is that a tornado warning? Oh, that's back there into Chandler.
Yeah, Kevin.
Okay,
Sorry,
I was like, whoa, that better not be.
Sort of.
Okay.
Yeah, sort of snuck up on you there with
Gotcha.
that. Yes, that's the current track of the tornado warning. It still only continues for Lincoln County, but the Weather Service will have to make a decision in the next 15 to 20 minutes if they're going to extend this into parts of Creek and Okfuskee County. The rotation still very present there on the northeast side of Chandler. Okay, so folks in Davenport, I know we don't have viewers in Davenport. If you know somebody in Davenport, you need to have them in their safe spot because spotter reports a tornado is on the ground. Okay, so this is now a spotter confirmed tornado on the ground situation in Lincoln County, and this is going to ride off to the east here. In fact, I'm going to turn the storm track because the latest scans have pulled that track more easterly. So this is going to be taking more of an aim towards Stroud and the Millfay area. Again, Millfay, a tiny community in southwestern Creek County, but there are still folks that live there. There's News Channel 8 viewers there. So folks, if this crosses the line as a tornado from Okfuskee into Creek County, you need to be ready. You need to be in your safe spot. In fact, Kevin, it's probably a good idea, folks, just go ahead and get there because I imagine the warning will be extended into Creek County here. And that's probably likely going to include areas such as Millfay down to Aaron, Gypsy, Depew. Okay, this is along, again, I-44 and Route 66. As this continues to push off to the east here, several communities in that region, you need to be in your safe spot. Stroud, right on the line between our viewing area and the Oklahoma City viewing area. So, folks, if you happen to be watching from Stroud, get in your safe spot and stay there because this is now, I imagine our warning box will turn purple any second now because spotter reports a tornado near Kendrick, which is, again, tiny community, northern Lincoln County. We are in rural Lincoln County here, but shear rate is still impressive. Velocity indication still impressive. And so, again, still every reason to believe that if this isn't a tornado, it's close.
You got it, Colton. Great information there for Lincoln County. And our viewers here across the county border here toward Millfay, Depew, Pulaski, currently you are not under a tornado warning, but you need to start to be thinking about getting to your shelter. I would, as Colton said, I would just do it now because we have spotter confirmation of a tornado near Kendrick. You see that inflow notch right there? That's indication of the rotation and the radar. As that storm moves east, it could impact you in Millfay. The speed, you just tracked that storm for us a second ago to show us exactly when it would be impacting those communities. So you know that if you live in the path of this storm, you need to be taking shelter. We know what kind of a night it's been. If you don't know what kind of a night it's been, Barnesville, which is in southern Osage County, had a tornado emergency a couple of hours ago, and now they've got search and rescue. Homes have been flattened tonight in Barnesville. We had damage to a hotel in Bartlesville. There was a tornado that was on the ground for at least 40 miles. A long track, strong tornado impacted areas just outside of Tulsa to the north and west
And Kevin,
this evening.
since we're on the subject of Bartlesville, I want to relay a message to our viewers and to anybody at home who may be listening. Washington County Emergency Management is asking that folks stay home, don't get out, don't try to come assess damage. It's hampering search and rescue efforts, and it's hampering emergency operations that are going on in and around Bartlesville. Anywhere really within that tornado, folks, stay home. Don't go out. Don't go survey damage. There's potentially, life-saving. Every minute counts in these scenarios, Kevin, as you know well. And so Washington County Emergency Management says stay home. Don't come track this. Let us do our job.
Okay, Colton, great information. We know search and rescue. We don't want to make their job any harder. We want to let them do what they have to do to save lives, and we appreciate it. Now, we're watching this tornado warning that has been, I believe, spotter confirmed, moving through Lincoln County on its way into Creek County, where it could be impacting some of those smaller communities within the next half hour. I wonder if, I don't know if you have time to do it right now, Colton, but if you can zoom back up to the Barnsdall and Bartlesville area, and we can show people where the track was of that tornado from earlier tonight that happened within the last couple of hours. And it doesn't get any clearer than this. We have the tornado reports, so we know that tornado was on the ground for at least 30 miles between Hominy and Bartlesville. Here's Barnsdall right here in the middle, and that's where the worst of the damage was. That's where estimates are that EF3 damage was seen. These winds could have been over 150 miles an hour, maybe even worse. And I believe that was a tornado even farther southwest of Hominy. So 30 to 40 mile long long track tornado that occurred earlier this evening. I believe it was around the 8:30, 9:30, 10 o'clock time frame. And that's where it went, and that was producing EF3 damage on its path. Once it got to Bartlesville, it was still a tornado emergency, and we know there was damage. We just heard from the Washington County officials, please stay inside, don't travel, don't come try to assess any damage if you live in Washington County, whether you're in Bartlesville, to the south, or even to the north, where we also had tornado warnings after this, the storm moved north. So stay inside. We've had tornadic damage in that line here between Hominy and Bartlesville. Those are some of the tornado reports, and we know we have confirmations of damage. Now, right now, get a big picture here of what's going on. We've got a line of severe wind of 60 miles an hour or greater stretching from near Miami all the way right down through the Tulsa metro. And then along this line, we could see tornadoes spin up, just like the one that's happening east of Chandler right now, on its way eastward as it makes its way toward Bristow. So that's Creek County. If you live in the southwestern Creek County, that's where you're going to be perhaps being impacted by a tornado warning. I mean, right now the warning is, I don't believe it's been extended into that county, but we know that little town of Milfay that Colton was talking about in the southwest corner, we can zoom back in on that. As we know, we're also keeping an eye on the activity that's happening to the southeast of Tulsa. There are some thunderstorms there. We're watching for the rotation, but this is a tornado warning, whereas the storms southeast of Tulsa might become one. So we're focusing on this one right now. There's the indication of the rotation right there in the radar. We know I believe we had a tornado spotter report from Kendrick earlier, probably about 15 minutes ago, which totally lines up with where you're seeing the possible location of a tornado right here as it moves to the east, right along Interstate 44. If you live in Stroud, those people are taking shelter right now. There's Milfay, Ritz Junction, Depew, right along that line. That's where it's moving. Now, currently, the edge of the tornado warning is the county line right there. So you've got Lincoln County, and then it goes off over into Creek County. Creek County has a severe thunderstorm warning right now for this line of storms that's coming through. And along that line, sometimes you get these notches. You see that notch right there? That tells you that there's some rotation going on because it's turning. You can just picture the winds blowing in like that and spinning around. So that's the area of rotation. And you don't want to see these notches. These notches, they can produce EF1, EF2 tornadoes, can do severe damage. So this is a potentially very dangerous situation for those areas east of Chandler, right along Interstate 44 near Kendrick, and possibly within the next half hour, making their way into places like Milfay and Depew. So we're going to be watching this one very carefully. So as we look at this line of thunderstorms pressing in, we've already seen the severe wind here in the metro. We also mentioned we've had rainfall rates of 2 inches an hour with these storms as well. We're going to have serious flooding overnight here, folks.
Yeah, speaking of the flooding, Kevin, we have a flash flood warning issued for Creek, Osage, Pawnee, Rogers, Tulsa, and Wagner County.
Yeah.
You can see that in the flashing neon green there, and that goes until 4:15 a.m. Just want to show you that this line of storms, it's really slowed down since it's gotten into the metro, and we could see a lot of rainfall within this here. I'll just kind of pinpoint some of these locations. Again, these are radar estimates, but still provides a good picture. I saw we just got the tornado warning into our viewing
Correct.
area,
Yep.
so I want to go back to Links 1 if we can, and let's hit that information. But just be aware of the flash flooding threat with this line of storms.
You got it. Thanks, Joy, for that report. And Colton, this is getting obviously very concerning. What we were just talking about a minute ago, you should be in your shelter if you live in Depew. Well, now you really need to be in it because a tornado warning is in place for you. That notch is very impressive. There's rotation right here between Kendrick, Davenport, and Stroud, and that storm is moving east right along Interstate 44. We hope everybody is staying safe, and we hope you have a safe place to be because, as you see, this tornado warning has been expanded now into Creek County, and it's impacting places like perhaps Bristow, most likely south of there as it moves to the east at about 30 miles an hour. So at that rate of speed, with this rotational zone here, which could produce a tornado at any moment, and there may be one on the ground right now, it would hit you in these towns at these times. Gypsy at 11:52, Pulaski at 11:55. So we're coming up here on the next 15 to 30 minutes. You're going to be impacted with this storm. Now, this storm is moving at 30 miles an hour. Some of the previous storms were moving a bit faster. This one could strengthen even more. This one is worrisome for sure. We know we're in a tornado watch until 5 a.m. The ingredients are ripe. When you got the tornado watch, you know the ingredients are in place for a tornado to form. Then when you actually see the rotation show up in the radar, this little notch right here, well, you know you've got rotation. You put 1 and 1 together, you get 2, and the warning gets issued, and you just hope this thing doesn't grow too much, like the one did in Barnesville earlier tonight that was put down probably winds of more than 150 miles an hour in its